Guys, in this video, we are going to learn how we can build animations in React.js. So we are going to be building a simple view animation in this project, and we will see how it can make our project interesting. So I'm just going to show you a sample of the project that we are going to build in this video. So have a look at this application that's running on my localhost 3000. So if I scroll down, you can see that this application has 3 div components, which are basically the div components with some background assigned to it. But I have built some cool animation with the backgrounds here using the useInview hook from Framer Motion library. So you can see that as I scroll down and the component that comes in view, the color changes very slowly. Let me scroll down a bit more. So you can see that color changed from yellow to green. So if I scroll back up, you can see that color has changed from black to gray. And in the component that's in the middle, if I scroll down, the color is changing from light blue to blue. So you should be able to build these kind of animations after watching this video. So stay tuned till the end of the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so. Now let's go to the Visual Studio Code and start coding and see how we can build these kind of animations. So guys, here I have a fresh React application that's running on my localhost 3001. So I'll go to the Visual Studio Code and we'll start coding this application here. So I'm going to remove all the default code that we have here, and let's save this, and I can put hello world to test our application. So we can see that we have a hello world application running on our localhost now. So to build the kind of animations we have used in the sample project here, these background kind of animations, we are going to be using a library called Framer Motion. So let's go to the Framer Motion documentation and see what we can find there. So this is a link to the Framer Motion library, that is framer.com. And if I open this link, so here I can see the documentation for all the kind of animations that can be built using Framer Motion. So Framer Motion is a library that provides you with all the hooks that you're going to need to build animations very quickly in React.js. But in this video, we are going to be exploring only one of the hooks. And in the future videos, I'll try to cover all the Framer Motion library hooks one by one. But for this video, we are going to be focusing on the view animation. So basically, useInview hook is used to build the kind of animations that rely on the view of the component. For example, now I cannot see my second div component on the screen. So this animation is basically fired as soon as my second component will be visible on the screen. So if I scroll down a little bit, as soon as it's visible on the screen, the color starts to change. So this animation is basically fired based on the view. If any component is out of view, that animation remains dormant in the application and is not fired. So let's look at the third component. As soon as the third component will be visible when I scroll down, the color will start changing from yellow to green. So that's what the useInview hook is. It's able to track whether the component is in view on the screen or it's not in view. So we will see how to use this in our application. So here they have some documentation and they do mention how to use it. You can read more into this documentation, but in this video, we are going to do this practically. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code. And the first thing that we have to do to start building this animation is to install this library, that is Framer Motion. So here in the introduction and in the install tab, I should be able to find the command to install Framer Motion in my project. So I'll copy this command from here, go back to the Visual Studio Code, open a new terminal and install Framer Motion into my project. So now Framer Motion has been installed into the project. Now let's build few div components here that we have seen in the sample project. So I'm just going to build 3 div components here, and each div component I'm going to give some styling. So my first div component can have a height of 800 pixels, and I'm going to assign a background color to this. And the background color can be, let's assign it black for now. The same way, I'm going to just create 2 more div components. I'm going to copy this and create 2 more. And probably I'll just change the height on the second and third component, or let's keep it 800 pixels for second and third component as well. But I'm definitely going to change the color. So keep the color of second component as yellow, and let's make the third component as red. So let's save this and see on the screen how these div components look. So that's our project. We can see that our first component is black and the second component is yellow and third component is red. So as of now, there are no animations here. So it's just the fixed background colors that we have assigned to it. So now what we want is, as soon as I scroll down and the component will come in view on the screen, we want to change this background color to green. So to keep things simple in the beginning, I'm just going to do it on the second div component, which is yellow. And let's forget about red and black for now. So to keep things simple, we are going to understand how we can do this on the yellow component here. So let's go to the Visual Studio Code. The first thing that we have to do is we have to import useInview hook from Framer Motion. And we also have to import useRef, that we are going to use as a hook to create references to this div components. So let's create a reference now using a useRef component. I'm going to create a reference to my yellow div component. So I'm going to be using useRef, and the value can be null in the beginning. So here in my yellow div component, I'm going to assign a reference as yellow. So basically this variable yellow is referencing this div component. So the yellow variable is basically a reference to our second div component, which is a yellow div component in the project. So now we will see how useInView hook can help us build this kind of animation. So to do that, I'm going to create another variable here. So I'm going to name it as yellow div in view, and I'm going to use my hook useInView, and I'm going to pass the reference to my yellow div here. So basically this variable yellow div in view is going to be tracking whether my yellow component is on the screen or it's behind the screen, like hidden. So let's console log this variable here and see what exactly this yellow div in view is. I'm just going to console log it and save it. Let's go back to the application. So here I'm going to refresh my application, open my console. So here in the console, as I refresh my application, let's scroll to the top first and let's clear the console. If I refresh my application, you can see that the yellow div in view is false. So basically this variable is tracking whether my yellow component is visible on the screen or not. As of now, it's not visible, and that's the reason we are able to see that yellow div in view is false. But as I start scrolling down in this application, just have a look at the console. So as I scroll down, you can see that now it has logged yellow div in view is true, because I can see the yellow div on screen. So as soon as I am able to see yellow div on screen, this variable is able to track and it is set to true. That's the magic of useInView hook from Framer Motion. And if I scroll down a bit more, and as soon as the yellow div component will go out of screen, you can see that it's again gone back to false. And if I scroll back up, it's true now. And if I scroll a bit more, now it's back to false. So basically this variable is tracking whether my yellow div component is visible on the screen, and we are going to use this variable to build the kind of animation that we want on the screen. So basically I want to put a condition that if my yellow div component is visible on the screen, the color should be green, and if it's hidden, if my yellow div in view is set to false, then the color can be yellow, which is by default. But as soon as it's visible on the screen, I want to change my color to green. So let's go back to the Visual Studio Code and make some changes and do that. So here in the Visual Studio Code, because now we are able to track whether yellow div is visible on the screen or not. So here in the background, I'm going to put some condition here that if my yellow div is in view, then my background color should be green, and otherwise my background color should be yellow. So basically, instead of fixing my background color to yellow, now my background color will be dependent on whether my yellow div is visible on the screen or not. Let's save this logic and see what's happening on the screen. So now if I refresh my application and if I go below, now I can see that it's changed to green permanently. But actually, if you see, it's not actually changed to green permanently. But the color change from yellow to green is happening so fast that we are not actually able to see the animation that we want to see. So I'm going to delay that. So I'm going to delay the transition of color from yellow to green, probably by 5 seconds. So let's go back to the code and make some changes there. So along with my background color logic, I'm going to pass one more property, that is transition. And in the transition, I'm going to say 5 seconds background. So this is going to basically delay the color change by 5 seconds, so we can actually see it on the screen. If it happens too quickly, we will not be able to see it on the screen and it won't look like an animation. So let's save this and go back. So now if I refresh my application and scroll down, you can see that now it's taking close to 5 seconds to change the color and we are able to see that animation. So if I scroll back up, now it's changing slowly from yellow to green. So that's how we can build the background color animations with the help of useInView hook in Framer Motion. So now we have done this on one of the div element. Let's indent this code properly to see what we have done here. So all we have done is we are using useInView component to track whether my div component is visible on the screen or not. And I'm changing my background color based on that. If it's visible on the screen, the background is green. Otherwise, background is yellow. And this transition is going to happen in 5 seconds. So that's all we have done here. Now we have done this to one of the div component. We can also replicate the same logic in other div components as well. But for that, we have to create references for other div components. So now my first div component is black and my last div component is red. So I'm going to create two references here. My second reference is going to be red and my third reference is going to be black. And here in my div components, I'm going to pass, this is a black div. So I'm going to pass my reference as black. And in the last one, my div is red in color. So I'm going to pass the reference as red. So we are using a useRef here to create references. So we are also going to track now whether these components are visible on the screen or not. So I'm just going to copy this logic 2 more times, but this time this is going to be red div in view and reference would be red. And this is going to be black div in view and the reference to this is going to be black. Now let's save this, but we also have to put same logic here as well, like the transition logic and the background color logic. So I'm just going to copy this and paste it here in my first div component. So my first div component is black. So this color will be changed based on black div in view or not. So if my black div is in view, my color is going to be black, and otherwise it can be gray. Let's do that. And the transition is going to remain the same. It's going to take 5 seconds for the transition to happen. Same way in my last component, I can copy the same logic from here because my last component is red. So the background color is going to be changing based on whether red div is in view or not. So if it's in view, I'm going to set the color to red. Otherwise the color can be orange, and the transition is going to remain the same. Basically what we have done is we have replicated this logic to other 2 div components as well. So let's save this and see on the screen how it's changing. So on the screen, you can see that if I refresh my application, the color is changing from gray to black in 5 seconds. And as I scroll down, it's changing from yellow to green. And as I scroll down more, it's changing from orange to red. Let's see it again. If I scroll back up, this color is changing from yellow to green. And this is changing from gray to black. And my last component is changing from orange to red. So that's how we build color animations on our landing pages. If you found a value in this video and have learned something new, subscribe to the channel, leave a like on the video. And for the code, you can check the description. There will be a link to my GitHub where you can access this code. So I'll see you in the next one.